In this video, I am working on the back cover of the Halloween art journal. I will be using a stencil and modeling paste and then show you how to put ink on it to make the texture really stand out. This paper is a thick tag board, and I'm using some chalk paint here in a light pink color just to cover it. I then add some darker watermelon color just to give it some variation. Here I'm using just a white chalk pastel pencil to draw in some very basic shapes. I am looking at a previous drawing that I did in a sketchbook to help me get my proportions correct. Again, just use very simple shapes. It's going to be more of a silhouette, not super detailed. The stencil I'm going to be using is Artist Sellers. I believe it's called Moroccan Nights. And I'm also going to be using some Jane Davenport inks. In the purple color, I believe it's called Frida, and the watermelon. I'll make sure and put the colors in the video. I just kind of smush them around with a dabbing sponge. They layer really well, and you'll see that they come through the modeling paste later on. Make sure that you clean off your stencils so that they will last long. Once the ink is dried, I use a modeling paste through the same stencil. This gives us definition and texture. It is white and it's going to cover over some of the ink, but the Jane Davenport inks are very strong, and you'll see that they come through the modeling paste nicely. We're also going to cover over the paste again with the same inks to give more definition. I use a calligraphy pen, just the tip of it, to dig into the modeling paste if it goes through the stencil. I'm using some golden fluid acrylics in carbon black to cover in all of the simple shapes of the witch. And if you can see over to the left, that is my original sketch. Here I'm using a heavy-bodied acrylic in Prussian red, which is just a really nice flesh tone, to add in the skin parts. And this is the Jane Davenport inks again. I'm using it to give more definition to the background. And I'm just doing it darker in some areas than others. I add in the purples. You'll see in a second that I add in some blue. And you can just kind of use a paper towel to daub it in areas to make the white stand out and give more texture and definition. Here I use a pit pen just to add some of the shadowing in her face underneath the hat and where her chin would be tilted up. I'm using a Posca pen in the smaller Uni Do Posca pens to add in the details, and a pink Posca pen to add in her cheeks, and then here is some white for the eyes. And I go around and add some highlights on the black to make it stand out. I use the white Posca pen to add in the title and some other items like the wand and some dots. And then I'm going to color in a couple of the stars just to make them stand out. I go around it with a black Sharpie, and I use the stamper around the edge to smudge the black in. And last, I use a Stardust Jelly Roll pen on a few stars to give it some sparkle. And she's done.